First in the spotlight tonight is Becky Shaw-Sims, a project office administrator from Witney. Her specialist subject, the Snooker World Championships. Next, Kate Morris, a maths teacher from Oxford. She'll be answering questions on the musicals of Lerner and Loewe. John Wilkins, a retired teacher from Leicester, and his subject, the novels of Cara Black. And Ray Donaldson, a record shop manager from Manchester. His subject, Phillip II of Spain. Hello and welcome to Mastermind with me, John Humphrys. 4 more contenders are about to take the stage tonight, and as usual, they will face 2 minutes of questions on their specialist subject and 2.5 minutes on general knowledge. And the winner will go through to the next round, the semi-final, and will be on course to become the next Mastermind champion. No great cash prize at stake, of course, but you can't put a price on the honour of it. So let's get on with it and ask our first contender to join us, please. And your name is?
Becky Shaw-Sims.
Your occupation?
Project Office Administrator.
And your specialist subject?
Snooker World Championships, 1977 to date.
Snooker, in 2 minutes. In 1977, the World Snooker Championship was held for the first time at the Crucible Theatre in Sheffield. Who won that year's tournament?
John Spencer.
Yes, during a second-round match against Terry Griffiths in 1983, who completed the first ever 147 break at the Crucible?
Cliff Thorburn.
Yes, by what score was Willie Thorne leading Eddie Charlton at the 78 Championships when he missed what would have been a match-winning black? Charlton then went on to win 13-12.
9-0.
12-9. How many times has Jimmy White been the losing finalist in World Championships at the Crucible?
6.
Yes, at the beginning of the famous 85 final, how many consecutive frames did Steve Davis win against Dennis Taylor without reply?
8.
Yes, in which frame did Alex Higgins achieve his title-winning full clearance of 135 in the final against Ray Reardon in 1982?
Pass.
In 78, Perry Mans became the only player from which country to have reached the final at the Crucible? He lost to Ray Reardon by 25 frames to 18.
South Africa.
Yes, in the deciding frame of the 94 final against Stephen Hendry, what colour did Jimmy White miss off its spot while 13 ahead that allowed Hendry to claim victory?
A blue.
The black, who became only the 3rd player to win the World Championships 4 times in the Crucible era when he beat Judd Trump in the 2011 final?
Ronnie O'Sullivan.
John Higgins. In 89, who was told to buck his ideas up by the referee John Williams because his play was deemed to be too slow?
Peter Ebdon.
No, it was Dean Reynolds. Who did Ronnie O'Sullivan beat by 18 frames to 12 to win the 2013 World Championship in spite of having played only 1 competitive match all season prior to the tournament?
Barry Hawkins.
Yes, who shared the prize for the highest break with Peter Ebdon at the 1996 Championships, both players scoring 144?
Graham Dott.
Tony Drago. In 2010, whom did Neil Robertson beat in the final to become the first Australian to win the World Championship at the Crucible?
John Higgins.
Graham Dott. In his 89 World Championship last 16 match against Jimmy White, who sportingly called a foul against himself that hadn't been seen by the referee?
Pass.
When he defended his world title for the first time in 91, Stephen Hendry was beaten 13 frames to 11 in the quarter-finals. By whom?
Steve Davis.
Steve James. 2 passes, Becky. It was John Virgo who turned out to be a really good sportsman. He called a foul against himself. The referee hadn't spotted. And it was in the 33rd frame that Higgins achieved his title-winning full clearance of 135. You have 6 points. And our next contender, please. And your name is?
Kate Morris.
Your occupation?
Maths teacher.
And your specialist subject?
The musicals of Lerner and Loewe.
The musicals of Lerner and Loewe in 2 minutes, starting now. In which city Schubert Theatre did the lyricist Alan J. Lerner and the composer Frederick Lowe's My Fair Lady receive its pre-Broadway tryout in February 1956?
Chicago.
New Haven, Connecticut. Which song in Gigi was inspired by Maurice Chevalier's remark that he was too old for women, too old for that extra glass of wine, too old for sports?
I'm glad I'm not young anymore.
Yes. Which celebrated choreographer directed Lerner and Loewe's early musical What's Up, which Lowe regarded as awful?
Pass.
Who was the producer of the first run of Brigadoon at Broadway's Ziegfeld Theatre from the 13th of March 1947?
Moss Hart.
Cheryl Crawford. From which show, written in collaboration with Kurt Weill, did Lerner take and modify the duet I Remember It Well for use in Gigi?
Pass.
In the original stage version of Paint Your Wagon, who played the role of Julio Valderas? The character is omitted from the later film version.
Pass.
In which song from Brigadoon does Tommy feel he could swim Loch Lomond and be home in half an hour?
The Heather on the Hill.
Almost Like Being in Love. What was the name of the production manager who began his long association with Lerner on the stage version of Paint Your Wagon?
Pass.
According to the song C'est Moi in Camelot, what would have been the consequence of Lancelot being the partner of Eve?
They'd be in Eden still.
Yes, a critic accused Lerner of plagiarising the story of Brigadoon from Gelmershausen, a tale by Friedrich Wilhelm Gerstecker. What was the critic's name?
Pass.
According to Professor Higgins and Eliza, in which three places do hurricanes hardly ever happen?
In Hertford, Hereford and Hampshire.
Yes. What major theatrical law did Lerner confess to breaking in the song Guinevere from the penultimate scene of Camelot?
Breaking the fourth wall.
No, he described events that took place off stage. Which British actress, a future soap star, played Meg Brockey in the first London run of Brigadoon in 1949?
Pass.
In My Fair Lady, what single item of furniture does Eliza want in her room far away from the cold night air?
Pass.
Which English actor responded to an invitation to appear in Camelot by saying, "Absolutely love it, all that rusty armour"?
Robert Coote.
Yes, that's correct. And you had 7 passes. In My Fair Lady, all I want, one enormous
chair.
Yeah. Michelle Gordon was the future soap star in the first London run of Brigadoon. The name of that critic was Nathan. Stone, or Bud Whitney, was the name of the production manager. Tony Bavar played the role of Julio Valderas. Love Life was the show written in collaboration with Kurt Weill, and George Balanchine was the celebrated choreographer. You have, Kate, 4 points. And our next contender, please. And your name is?
John Wilkins.
Your occupation?
Retired teacher.
And your specialist subject?
The novels of Cara Black.
Novels of Cara Black in 2 minutes, starting now. Aimé Leduc is the central character in a series of detective novels by Cara Black set in Paris. On what street is her detective agency?
Pass.
What is the name of the handsome dwarf with green eyes and goatee beard who is Aimé's partner in the Leduc agency?
René Fréance.
Yes, in Murder on the Ile Saint-Louis, explosives are discovered in the kitchens of the Hotel Lambert. To what are they attached?
Underneath a cooker.
A chopping block. What is the title of the novel in which Aimé is accused of shooting her partner René in their offices?
Murder in the Latin Quarter.
Murder in the Palais Royal. In Murder in the Rue de Paradis, Aimé learns of a Nazi operation that forced skilled Jewish workers to restore clocks, furniture and other items on the left bank. What was the name of this operation?
Pass.
In Murder in the Palais Royal, on what means of transport does Aimé navigate the corridors of the Louvre with Sylvie, the cleaner?
Rollerblades.
Yes, with what nickname have the papers labelled Patrick Badus, Inspector Maubier's chief suspect for the murder in the 4th book of the series?
Beast of Bastille.
Yes, in Murder in the Palais Royal, René's attacker wears the same brand of motorcycle helmet as Aimé. What brand is it?
Pass.
In Murder Below Montparnasse, Aimé is asked by Yuri Volodya to recover a lost Modigliani painting. Who is the painting of?
Pass.
What is the name of the cat belonging to Leo, the radio engineer, in Murder in Passy?
Pass.
Aimé's lover is found murdered shortly after proposing to her in Murder in the Rue de Paradis. What is his name?
Yves Robert.
Yes, René witnesses the power of light from the star-shaped stained glass window in a side chapel of a church in Murder at the Lanterne Rouge. Which church?
Pass.
In Murder Below Montparnasse, René has accepted a job in America. What is the name of the replacement he recommends whom Aimé takes on trial?
Pass.
What reason does Aimé give for nearly always over-tipping her taxi drivers? For instance, after she had asked a driver to circle Rue de Louvre 3 times in Murder Below Montparnasse.
Taxi karma, so she gets good treatment later on.
Yeah, that's it for rainy night taxi karma, as you put it. And you had 7 passes. The name of that replacement in Murder Below Montparnasse was Maxence. The church in Murder at the Lanterne Rouge was Saint Nicholas, or Saint Nicolas des Champs. Marconi was the name of the cat in Murder in Passy. In Murder Below Montparnasse, the painting was of Lenin. That helmet, the brand was Blue Fever. Operation Meubler was the name of the operation in Murder in the Rue de Paradis. And Émile Leduc's detective agency was on Rue de Louvre. So you have 7 passes. You've scored, John, 5 points. And finally, our last contender. And your name is?
Ray Donaldson.
Your occupation?
I'm a record shop manager.
And your chosen subject?
Philip II of Spain.
Philip II of Spain, in 2 minutes. Philip II of Spain ruled a worldwide empire. In which city, on the 20th of October, 1555, did Charles V abdicate and invest Philip as ruler of the Netherlands?
Brussels.
Yes, the original plans for the Spanish Armada were drawn up by the Marquis of Santa Cruz. After his death in early 1508, whom did Philip appoint as commander?
The Duke of Medina Sidonia.
Yes, which agent of Charles V stood in for Philip on the 6th of March, 1554, in the betrothal ceremony with Mary Tudor?
Pass.
Who was Philip's first wife? He married her in Salamanca in 1543.
Maria Manuela of Portugal.
Yes, which military commander led the expedition of 1564 to 65 to begin the systematic occupation of the Philippines, which had been named after Philip about 20 years earlier?
Miguel Lopez Legazpi.
Yes, which administrative body was responsible for governing the kingdoms of Naples and Sicily until Philip created a separate Council of Italy in the late 1550s?
Council of Aragon.
Yes, which peace treaty between Philip and Henry IV of France was agreed several months before Philip's death?
Servin.
No, Vervins. Which city was brutally sacked in 1576 by Philip's unpaid troops after his bankruptcy?
Antwerp.
Yep. With whom was the Duke of Medina Sidonia, the commander of the Invincible Armada, ordered to collaborate off Margate Cape according to Philip's detailed instructions?
Parma.
Yes. In which city did Philip meet the Cortes of Portugal in order to affirm his right to the kingdom after its conquest?
Tomar.
Correct. What position was held by the Dominican friar Diego de Chaves towards the end of Philip's reign?
He was Philip's confessor.
Yes. Which Flemish Burgundian composer was appointed by Philip as maestro of the Capilla Flamenca in the Escorial from 1586?
Rogier.
Yes. What name is usually given to the tax Philip introduced in 1590 that caused widespread unrest in Castile?
The Millones.
Yes. The Spanish artist Francisco Hernández de Toledo visited Philip's American territories and made several studies and paintings. What was the main subject of those works?
The wildlife.
Yes, plants and their properties. What was the name of the Justicia of Aragon who was beheaded in Saragossa? I'll finish the question. Under orders from Philip as a consequence of the civil unrest that accompanied the flight of Antonio Perez from Castile.
Lanuza.
It was indeed. You had 1 pass. The agent of Charles V, who stood in for Philip, was La Morale. So, just that 1 pass, Ray, you have scored 13 points. Well, a bit of a gap in the scores there, but another round yet to come. So let's have a look at the scores so far. In 4th place, 4 points, Kate Morris. 3rd place, 5 points, John Wilkins. 2nd place, 6 points, Becky Shaw-Sims. In the lead with 13 points, Ray Donaldson. So it is the general knowledge round now, and if there's a tie at the end of it, then the number of passes is taken into account, and the person with the fewer passes is the winner. And if they're tied on passes as well, there has to be a tie break. So let's get on with it and ask Kate to join us again, if you would please. And you've struggled a bit, but there are an awful lot of Lerner and Loewe musicals, so I quite understand why. Anyway, let's see how you do with your general knowledge. 2.5 minutes, starting now. Murder at the Vicarage, set in the village of St Mary Mead, is the first Agatha Christie novel to feature which elderly spinster detective?
Jane Marple.
Miss Marple, yes. Which staple food is mainly manufactured on a commercial scale by the Chorleywood process, makes it softer and prolongs its shelf life?
Bread.
Yes. What name is given to the fibrous protein that constitutes the outermost layer of skin, hair and nails?
Keratin.
Yes. Which former member of a girl band won the Designer Brand of the Year title at the 2011 British Fashion Awards?
Victoria Beckham.
Yes. Port Erin and Port St Mary stand near the southern tip of which of the British Isles?
Pass.
Who wrote We're Going on a Bear Hunt? He was appointed as the 5th Children's Laureate in 2007.
Pass.
Montezuma II, who reigned from 1502 to 1520, was the 9th and last significant ruler of which empire?
The Aztec.
Yes. Weber's Invitation to the Dance of 1819 is generally thought to be the first concert piece featuring which dance particularly associated with Vienna?
Waltz.
Yes. What kind of gateway topped by a crown is used for the logo of the House of Commons?
Portcullis.
Yes, which novel by E.M. Forster was made into a film starring Emma Thompson, Vanessa Redgrave and Anthony Hopkins?
Pass.
In which country is Lake Balaton, the largest freshwater lake in Central Europe?
Italy.
Hungary. What annual show business extravaganza was first broadcast on television in 1960 when stars including Harry Worth and Liberace took to the stage of the Victoria Palace Theatre?
The Royal Variety Show.
Yes, the name of which animal, a type of anteater, means earth pig in Afrikaans?
Aardvark.
Yes, the Clapham sect was a group of evangelical Christians prominent in England from about 1790 to 1830 who promoted missionary work and particularly campaigned against what?
Pass.
The obi is what part of the clothing worn by a participant in Japanese martial arts?
The sash.
Yes, the Oscar-winning song When You Believe, that was a chart hit for Mariah Carey and Whitney Houston, features in which 1998 animated biblical epic?
Prince of Egypt.
Yes, the name of what tradesman comes from the Latin for lead?
Pass.
In 2012, the British Olympic team won Britain's first show jumping gold medal for 60 years. Which member of the team had broken his neck in a horse riding accident 12 years earlier?
Pass.
Whose work, Age of Reason, first published in the 1790s, is an exposition of the place of religion in society?
John Bunyan.
Thomas Paine. Which town on the South Devon coast is the home of the Britannia Royal Naval College?
Dartmouth.
Is correct. You had 6 passes. Nick Skelton was the poor chap who broke his neck in a horse-riding accident. It's a plumber that comes from the Latin for lead. Slavery was what the Clapham sect campaigned against so vigorously. Howard's End was that E.M. Forster novel. And Port Erin and Port St Mary are on the Isle of Man. But you've now increased your score to 16 points. And now John again, please. And you start out with 5 points. John, let's see how you do with your general knowledge. 2.5 minutes starting now. Which trunk road that links London and Edinburgh is Britain's longest major road? It's about 410 miles long.
A1.
Yep. In the James Bond film, what's the name of Goldfinger's Korean bodyguard who has a lethal steel-rimmed bowler hat?
Pass.
Which small island lies in the bay fronting the city of Marseille? Its castle, once used as a state prison, is celebrated in Dumas the Count of Monte Cristo.
Pass.
Which common garden invertebrate can be identified when it's mature by the smooth, swollen band around its body known as the clitellum or saddle?
A worm.
Yep, earthworm. What Italian term is used for a granular water ice or sorbet?
A frappuccino.
Granita. In Greek legend, which queen founded the city of Carthage and killed herself on a funeral pyre after she was abandoned by her lover Aeneas?
Pass.
Which French revolutionary did the artist Jacques-Louis David paint dead in his bath?
Pass.
What name of Old English origin is given to the small agricultural holdings typically found in the Northern Highlands and Islands of Scotland?
Kirk.
Croft. Which club won the 2013 Capital One Cup 10 years after they narrowly escaped relegation from the Football League?
Swansea.
Yes, in which city was Robert Kennedy campaigning for the Democratic presidential nomination when he was shot by Sirhan Sirhan in 1968?
Detroit.
Los Angeles, whose first novel, Waverley, set during the Jacobite Rebellion of 1745, was published anonymously in 1814?
Walter Scott.
Yes, which British singer and songwriter born in Kenya in 1936 had top 20 hits in the 60s and 70s with Durham Town and The Last Farewell?
Pass.
Total, partial and annular are the 3 types of which astronomical phenomenon?
Eclipse.
Yes. What was the name of the Council of the Anglo-Saxon Kings whose duty it was to advise the king on all matters on which he chose to consult them?
Privy Council.
Witan. Abuja replaced which city as the federal capital of Nigeria in the early 1990s?
Lagos.
Yes. Which French composer's only completed opera is Pelléas et Mélisande, based on the play by Maeterlinck?
Sanson.
Debussy. The name of what member of the horse family, whose domesticated form is known as a donkey, has become synonymous with a foolish person?
Ass.
Yeah. In which television crime drama does Martin Shaw play a police inspector based in Northumberland in the 1960s?
George Gently.
Yes. What is the name of the island off the Llyn Peninsula that is sometimes known as the Island of 20,000 Saints because of the large number of holy men buried there?
Anglesey.
Bardsey Island. You had 5 passes, John. Roger Whittaker. was the Durham town and the last farewell man. Marat was the French revolutionary whom David painted dead in his bath. Dido was the queen who founded the city of Carthage. And the Ile d'If is that small island in the bay fronting the city of Marseille. And the name of that bodyguard with the lethal bowler hat was Odd Job. You have scored a total, John, of 13 points. And now, Becky, again, please. And you start out with 6 points with your knowledge of snooker. Here we go with your general knowledge, 2.5 minutes, as ever. The Spanish designer Manolo Blahnik is particularly famous for what type of fashion wear?
Shoes.
Yep, which former Middlesex and England cricketer replaced Ali McCoist as one of the regular team captains on A Question of Sport in 2008?
Pass.
Which crime fiction writer created the Italian police inspector Aurelio Zen?
Pass.
What name is given to the garland of flowers or feathers worn around the neck that is presented in Hawaii as a welcome or farewell?
A lei.
Yes, in which sport do the regulations say the ball must weigh a mere 2.7 grams?
Table tennis.
Yes, who topped the UK singles charts in January 2013 for the first time since 2004 when she duetted with will.i.am on Scream and Shout?
Pass.
Which Mongol military leader born in 1216 was a grandson of Genghis Khan and completed his conquest of China?
Pass.
What name is given to the flexible bands of tissue that hold bones together at a movable joint?
Cartilage.
Ligaments. Which novel by Anne Bronte tells of a talented young female painter with a small son who's left her violent husband to live in seclusion?
Wuthering Heights.
The Tenant of Wildfell Hall. Which film actor who plays Ethan Hunt in the Mission Impossible films was born Thomas Mapother IV in Syracuse, New York State in 1962?
Tom Cruise.
Yes, what name for the western part of the Isle of Dogs in London comes from the windmills that stand on an embankment that protected the low-lying marshland from flooding?
Pass.
The works of which Impressionist painter include Dance Class and Prima Ballerina?
Manet.
Degas. Which European capital city stands on the river Tagus near its entrance to the Atlantic Ocean?
Lisbon.
Yes, what substance secreted by glands in the worker bee's abdomen can be used as a polish and also to make candles and cosmetics?
Beeswax.
Yes, which classic horse race for 3-year-old thoroughbreds has been run at Epsom on the first Saturday in June since 1995?
The Derby.
Yes, what term of Greek origin is used to describe plants such as alfalfa, cotton and soybean that move in response to the position of the sun as they grow?
Phototropic.
Yes. What name was given to the body that, along with the State Council, formed the Russian Parliament from 1906 to 1917? It was revived for the lower house of the Russian Federal Assembly in 1993.
Pass.
Which region of eastern France is particularly noted for its chickens and is also home to a variety of blue cheese?
Pass.
Which Dickens novel features the characters Nell Trent, Daniel Quilp and Kit Nubbles?
A Tale of Two Cities.
No, it was the Old Curiosity Shop. And you had 7 passes as well. Bresse is that region of eastern France. The Duma is the name given to the body that formed part of the Russian Parliament. Millwall is the name for that western part of the Isle of Dogs on account of the windmills and all that. And Kubla Khan was the grandson of Genghis Khan, who finished off China. Britney Spears sang with will.i.am on Scream and Shout. Michael Dibdin created the Italian police inspector Aurelio Zen. And Phil Tufnell was the cricketer who replaced Ali McCoist on Question of Sport. Those 7 passes, Becky, you now have 14 points. And finally, Ray, again, please. And you already have 13 points with your knowledge of Phillip II, so we'll see how many you can get. Here we go, 2.5 minutes of general knowledge. The famous rant, "You Cannot Be Serious," was first heard in 1981. It was directed at the Wimbledon umpire Edward James during a match against Tom Gullickson. Who said it?
John McEnroe.
Yes, which Roman general did Queen Cleopatra VII marry in an Egyptian ceremony?
Anthony.
Yes, what small British birds that often feed by clinging to the bark of trees can, unlike woodpeckers, climb downwards as well as upwards?
Tree creepers.
Nuthatch. Which small market town in Cheshire was transformed into a major railway centre when the Grand Junction Railway opened its locomotive works there in 1843?
Crew.
Yes, which Austrian physicist who died in 1916 gives his name to the number representing the ratio of the speed of an object to the speed of sound?
Pass.
What name that comes from a traditional fairground throwing game was given to the fairground doll played by Una Stubbs in the children's television series Wurzel Gummidge?
Pass.
Which character in The Merchant of Venice delivers the speech beginning, "The quality of mercy is not strained"?
Portia.
Yes, which city has been the capital of Uganda since the early 1960s?
Kampala.
Yeah, what song that gave Harry Belafonte a #2 hit in 1957 is an adaptation of a Jamaican or Trinidadian work song?
The Banana Boat Song.
Yes, what general name for the West Midlands is given to the football derby between West Bromwich Albion and Wolverhampton Wanderers?
Pass.
The Australian artist Sidney Nolan is remembered principally for his paintings of which outlaw?
Ned Kelly.
Yes, what word for a large cemetery comes from the Greek for City of the Dead?
Necropolis.
Yes, Robert Donat, Kenneth Moore and Robert Powell have all played Richard Hannay in film versions of a novel. What's the novel called?
39 Steps.
Yes, in which British city is Kelvin Grove Park, part of a fashionable West End, which, like London, contrasts sharply with a poor East End?
Glasgow.
Yep. What is the name of the veteran American folk musician and singer who performed This Land Is Your Land at President Obama's inaugural celebration concert in January 2009?
Pete Seeger.
Yes, roll mops are made from fillets of which saltwater fish?
Herring.
Yes, what name is traditionally given to the penitent thief who was crucified alongside Jesus? He's the patron saint of prisoners.
Barabbas.
No, St. Dismas. The Apennine Mountains form the central spine of which European country?
Italy.
Yep. From the 17th century onwards, Grub Street near Moorfields in London was associated with the less respected members of which profession?
The press.
Yes. 3 passes, Ray. That general name for the West Midlands, Black Country. Aunt Sally was what Una Stubbs played, or who Una Stubbs played. And Mach was the Austrian physicist. Mach 2, Mach speed and all that sort of thing. You've just won. I think I'll have to say that at this point. You've got 27 points. So let's have a look at all the scores. In 4th place with 13 points, John Wilkins. 3rd place, 14 points. Becky Shaw-Sims. 2nd place, 16 points. Kate Morris, 1st place with 27 points. Ray Donaldson. Which means, of course, that Ray is tonight's winner and he goes through to the semi-finals. Congratulations to him. If you would like to be a contender on the next series, do go to our website, bbc.co.uk/mastermind. And you can follow us on Twitter, @MastermindQuiz. And do join us again next time for more Masterminds. Thanks for watching. Good night.